Hey coworkers, welcome back to my channel where we talk business systems that will help you increase peace, productivity, and peace of mind. So today we're diving into a topic that might be a little bit touchy: why Christians make bad CEOs. Now, before you react, just get on this journey with me while we explore this from a biblical perspective. Because as a Christian entrepreneur, things might look a little bit different. And while conventional business books might not always agree with us, when the Bible is your favorite business book, it's gonna keep you right on track. So if you're interested in this kind of video, let's get into it. Let's now break down 5 different ways in which Christian CEOs might be different and why, in the grand scheme of things, or from somebody looking on from the outside, or people who just don't understand how our brains work and kind of what are the things that we subscribe to, might find it a little bit weird. And when I say weird, I mean, have you ever listened to yourself? You're like, you are so strange. Some people call it delusional.
This is delusional.
But we call it faith. And that's the biggest thing. Faith in planning. Now, when it comes to having faith in planning instead of relying on data, it's one of the things that when I think about being delusional and being delusional in faith, it's one of the things that stand out the most for us. Because as Christians, while we love data, like you guys know, this channel is all about business systems and getting things done efficiently and making data-driven decisions. At some point, we have to lean on understanding that's not our own. We have to truly surrender to the will that God has laid out on our lives, and we have to make sure that we move in faith, even if the data sometimes might not represent that. And I love how Proverbs 16 verse 13 tells us to commit our work to the Lord, and our plans will be established. So it doesn't mean that we should ignore the data. However, it's almost like a great marriage of both of them. Understanding that we have to use what we know, we have to use the regular business advice and make sure that all the things are in line as much as possible, but also we have to seek divine guidance, right? We have to truly surrender to God and listen to His word when He says, do this, do that, do not do this, walk here, walk not there. And it's such a stark difference with us as Christian entrepreneurs, because whenever we move in faith, it's almost like, but you don't know how this will end. But there is just so much clarity when you know that God has told you something, or when He has equipped you with a certain skill to move in a certain path, right? So a good example is me. I always use myself as example because we don't chat people over here, right? And I remember maybe about a year and a half ago, I shut down everything. I had a social media agency and I had just launched a store for the church girls. The church girls store will forever go down as the baddest. Okay, good, but not bad, but good. You get it. And I had those two going on at the same time. It was good in the grand scheme of things. Like business-wise, if you looked on the data made sense. You looked on the forecast, the numbers made sense. The profit margins made sense for the long term. But I just felt like this wasn't where God wanted me to be. And there was just a lot of pull in a different direction. And I had no market research to back it up. I had no data. I knew that the market made sense, but I never knew if it made sense for me. But when God said, I went into prayer, right? I went into prayer, I surrendered it, and I said, God, lead me where you need me to go. And He opened this world of online operations to me, and I decided to not do the store anymore. I decided to not do the social media agency anymore. And while those are skills that I love and will maybe pick them up back someday, this service was such a good fit. And I'm here almost 2 years later into it, and it's literally one of the best decisions I've made so far. I truly love my job. I love the clients who I get to serve. I love the type of work that I do. I love the ability to make money in it and the ability to build different systems from it and different services, different offers. It's been such a good fit, and I am so thankful that I leaned into listening to His voice and providing him with space, and I'm providing him with space to talk back to me, right? Like, drown out the noise, drown out everything else, and listen. All right. Then the other one, which this one can be a little tricky. So after we've done some delusional faithing, then it's now up to us to align our business decisions with our personal values. Now we're in a world, co-workers, we're in a world where everybody needs to be inclusive. Everybody wants to make sure that whatever that they're doing, everybody can be a part of it. But as Christians, we have values, and what that means is that these values will have to override culture, will have to override expectations of the market. And for us, it might not always mean that we're on the most loved, right? We're going to get called a lot of names. We're going to be considered outcasts, but it is what it is. And I think how I balance that is that I know that there are billions of people in the world, and knowing and understanding your target audience is going to be, super important, because there will be people who will want to work with you without having you compromise your beliefs, right? So for instance, I made a very conscious decision in the online space. There are some spiritual healers, and there are people who do practice witchcraft openly. And as a business admin, as somebody who does business operations, there are certain sectors that I just won't work in. I do not care how much money you have, I just won't work with you, right? And I won't do any type of tests to decide if you want to work with me either, because my identity is in Christ. It's not in none of them things there that tell me who I am. I know who He says I am, right? I know who God says I am, what He says I am, where He says I'm at. I know who I am. But Matthew 6 verse 24 reminds us that no one can serve two masters, right? So I decided to focus on services that reflect my values. I want to attract customers who respect and share those principles. So I want to pause here. Respect and share, they don't have to work hand in hand. So that doesn't mean I only work with Christians. No, I work with other people who believe other things, because I also believe that everybody should have the ability to choose how they want to live their lives. That's fine, but they should respect what I believe, and in respecting what I believe, it means that you have to respect the boundaries that I've set up, right? And I love working with people who share the principles, because when I work with people who share those principles, we just have a different vibe. We can have the type of conversations that I love, and that truly creates a strong sense of community around the work that I do. Now, as I look into it in the wide scheme of things, and I know I want to say this to somebody who's looking on, who is like, Zara, I need to make money. I don't really know if I want to be saying, hey, I don't know if I want to like truly put my values on a pedestal, because money is money and I don't care where it come from. God will bless it when it comes through the filter. I just want to encourage you to not be afraid of it, because if you stand up for God, He will stand up for you, and He will prove to you that He will provide regardless of the situation. So whatever it is that's convicting your heart, sometimes things convict us that aren't necessarily bad things in the truest sense, but we might get a conviction that that's just not the space that we need to be in, that's just not the person we should work with. And it's okay to trust that God is talking to you in these different ways, right? And one of the measures that I look and say, how is this affecting me spiritually? If it's going to pull me away from God, it's going to pull me away from what I think my true calling is, then it's going to affect me, I move on. And if you're working with somebody, or you're working with a company, and it's an everyday thing, and it's going to have such a big impact on your life, then that's a question I think that you should ask yourself as well. And the next one, Sabbath observance. So Genesis 2 verses 2 to 3 shows us that even God rested on the seventh day. And in my business, I choose to close shop on Saturdays, Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. And like when you look at it, Saturdays is one of the busiest business days, but it has never failed me yet. And I don't go into arguments over people who argue over the Sabbath, because I think that it's almost me arguing about you accepting this gift that's good for you. So if you don't want to accept the gift that's good for you, then that's your decision. I'm not going to force you to accept something that's good for you. So whether it was done away with or it's not done away with, it's good for me. I've seen His example and I want to follow that example. And that has always been my stance. And the resting in Jesus, it rejuvenates not just your body, but like your business creativity. It affects your efficiency. And when you think about it's a rhythm set by God when He made what He would consider a perfect world. That's how He wanted the world to work. right? That's even how you have like people who say they'll give their fields a Sabbath. So they plant for 6 years and rest in the 7th year so they can get rejuvenated, right? And if you want to be a good steward, it involves rest. And honestly, if on the grand scheme of things, that doesn't make you a good CEO from the world's perspective, because you need to be grinding every day. You need to be going. Like, what you mean by you need to take a step back to talk to God, or take a step back to spend time with family and to relax and rejuvenate? That don't make any sense. That's for when people have money. That is for when you have made it. But for now, you need to be grinding. And for us, it is a no. And I don't, that's one of, like, you have some other things that are negotiables. That one is a non-negotiable for me. And at different points in my life, I've struggled with it because I was like, yeah, but I could be doing this, I could be doing that, but it has never failed me. Through school, has never failed me. Through business, it has never failed me, because God will always provide, and resting in Him will never ever fail. And then we're gonna move on to the next one, generosity. Generosity as a part of your business model, and weaving it in. But I want us to think about the widow's offering in Mark 12. She did not give out of her abundance, she gave out of her poverty. And because of that sacrificial giving, it was something that she was praised for by Jesus. And in business, what this translates for us is not just about donations when you have it, or doing it for a tax write-off, but actually embedding it into the way we do business, embedding it into our model. Will a percentage go towards a mission that's bigger than us? Like, I literally just hosted a retreat, a brunch. I wish it was a retreat, but I just hosted a women's brunch, and it was so good. It was so spiritually fulfilling and uplifting. And a lot of the finances that went into that brunch were finances from this business that I didn't even have to think twice. It was so easy for me, because I was like, God, you've given me great rewards in business so that I can do your work. And it might not be a lot right now, but I know that the little is much when God is in it. And when I tell you that little has stretched and has done so much, that I know that it was a part of God's overall plan. So whatever it is that you're doing, mission has to be woven into it. How are you giving back from your profits, no matter how small it is? It might not be something like having an event or anything, but it could be something that is near and dear to your heart, right? And you want to make sure that it's not just because you have this, or because you want to try to evade taxes, which is what a lot of money people do. Because they want to evade taxes, them give to a charity or whatever. But we're not like that. And that might be a reason they think that we are not good CEOs. But I beg to differ. And as we talk about that, I wanted to touch on the integrity over short-term wins. It's the last thing I'll talk about before we wrap up this video. But this has been so near. I know I said enough things near and dear to my heart, but this one in particular has been so near and dear to my heart, because I've had to do it a lot of times. I did up to last week. And I take courage from Daniel. Daniel maintained his integrity in the face of lions. Like, they literally were gonna kill him, okay? But he was willing to do that instead of compromising his faith. And in business, it sometimes means saying no to something that looks profitable, something that doesn't align, or just being very transparent with our customers about our mistakes, being very transparent about things that won't work, right? And I remember, so I have two great examples. I remember the first time this happened to me, I was pretty fresh in business, and I was in a group program, and I had a client who was at 30 hours a month. So how my retainers work is that you can do up to 30 hours a month, up to 20 hours a month. I don't do hourly retainers or hourly pricing, because sometimes it might be 25, sometimes it might be 15, but that helps me to manage my capacity, right? And after working with the client for about 2 months, I said to her, I think you should downgrade to the up to 20 hours a month, because I don't think you need that 30-hour routine. And the business coach would come in, she's like, when I was telling her, she's like, no, so why didn't you find things in the business to do? Or why didn't you just continue until the contract ended? And I was like, no, because I don't benefit from that, because I have to fight with that, right? Because I don't think it's right. And my integrity means so much to me. And as a Christian, I prioritize that over profit, right? I had a client last week. She wasn't sure if she wanted to hire me in the beginning. She was like, she has always had full-time people, and she wasn't sure if she needed an OBM or she wanted an OBM. She asked me if I do a trial, and I said, no, I don't have a trial offer. However, we can work for a month and then we can reassess. No, I could have gone into her business and found all the things to do. I could have faked my availability for the 1 month so that it seems as if I'm available and present for her. But I decided not to. I treated her like a regular client. I mean, this is a big time client, and I knew that if I had her on my roster, then it would be good to have somebody on my roster, somebody like that on my roster, because they're a big client, right? After month 1, I remember having the first meeting with her, and I printed out. I don't normally show clients how I use my time, but I printed out the time sheets so that she can see where the time is going. And then she was like, I was just thinking that I probably need somebody who can work with me full time and just be more available, because I have a lot of like admin tasks that I don't think that you would have to do. And I said, I agree. Like, I literally said, I agree. And I was willing to allow her to leave that. It was supposed to be a 3-month fixed contract, and she was only here for a month, but I was willing to allow her to step away because I knew that she would have gotten her needs met elsewhere. I wasn't difficult about it. I was honest about it, and we left that relationship amicably, and I got a great review. Who's now going to research how long she stayed with me? Nobody. Okay, so that's just the point. Like, when you put your values above the big things, above the profits, it truly works out for you, because standing up for God and standing up for what you believe is always going to be the better thing, even if the world thinks that it makes you a bad CEO. So I hope that this video was enlightening. So why do you really think Christians make bad CEOs? Maybe just because we play by a different set of rules. A set of rules guided by biblical values that ultimately lead to a different, more eternal kind of success. Do you have any more examples of what could possibly make us bad CEOs? I'd love to hear them in the comments. Tell us in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. And if you resonated with this message, please like, share, and subscribe as we talk more about faith and entrepreneurship life. And honestly, if you do like this type of content, I can do more of it. Sometimes I just don't know. I get a little bit shy, because it's like a new era for me, talking about like faith and business at the same time. So please, if you want us to talk a little bit more about these types of stuff, these types of topics, just drop that in the comments too. All right, take care. Bye.